In this demo, we will be solving sample or old midterms from a typical Java class. Questions are answering topics, not exact questions that you would expect in the exam. Could be similar questions, definitely the same topics, same style of questions. So let's get started first. First question will be true, false. I have few questions here. And first question says, Java compiled bytecode is also called source code. True or false? False, because Java source code contains the code you write. Compiled bytecode is the .class file that contains the intermediate Java compiled code. So first one is false. Don't see the slides. Don't see anything in the screen. Do you see the slides? The question? Please type yes, no. I'm sharing my screen. Can you answer, please, guys? Yeah, okay, good. So start over. So first question, Java compiled code is also called source code. This is false. Second question, Java provides a JVM, Java Virtual Machine, for each platform so that programmers do not have to recompile their code. Yes, there are separate Java Virtual Machine for each platform. You write the same Java source code, you compile the code, you get the bytecodes, but when you run it, it runs on platform-specific Java virtual machine. So second answer is true. Third question, if there is no constructor available in the class, Java provides, or Java compiler provides a default constructor. The answer is true. If you provide no constructor, Java compiler provides a default constructor with no parameters. So the answer is true. Static methods in a class can only update static variables, while non-static methods can update both static and non-static variables. The first part is true. Static methods can only update static variables. Static methods cannot update non-static object variables. Update means change, make any change. However, non-static methods can update both static and non-static variables. From non-static to static, no problem, because there is only one static variable. However, from static to non-static is a problem, because each object has its own copy of that variable. So the answer is true. However, if the answer says static methods can update static and non-static, it would be false. Next one. When calling a function in Java, object parameters, like arrays and any object you create, are always passed by reference, true or false. In Java, all objects are passed by reference. Objects. However, primitive data types are passed by value. If you have done C++ before, in C++, you could choose between pass by reference or pass by value. So pass by reference, a reference to the object is passed. So if the function makes a change, then the change occurs to the object. So here, object parameters are always passed by reference. So the answer is true, by the way. It's my mistake. Object parameters are always passed by reference. Object parameters, object itself, the parameter of the function. When you call a function and you send an object like circle, employee, student, if it's a parameter in your method, then it's passed by reference. Next question. Class members with protected access modifiers can be accessed by other classes in the same package, even if they are not a subclass of that class. Protected members can be accessed in the same class or in the same package. No problem. However, if it's outside the package, only if it's outside the package, then it must be a subclass. Maybe at this level, you don't know what a subclass is. But protected access modifiers allow a class member to be accessed in the same class and in the same package. When you create a Boolean, the default value for Boolean local variables is false. When you create a Boolean, is it true or false? The initial value is false. So, true. What about integer? What's the initial or the default value? What about integer? 0. What about string? Null. So any object will be null. If it's a primitive data type, numeric will be 0, Boolean will be false. Number 8, private members of a class can be accessed from other classes in the same package. Number 8, private members, whether a variable or a method, can only be accessed from the same class. Anything private, whether a variable or a method, can only be accessed from the same class. No outside the class. So the last one here will be false. Next question, multiple choice. Let's see. What will be displayed after the following statements have been executed? Best way to know how things work is to analyze your code. Here you have 3 variables. C is equal to 1, X is equal to 5, and K is equal to 1. The condition says while C is less than X. So first time is true. If it's true, K will be incremented, then K will be 2. Then C will be incremented, C will be 2. X will be decremented, X will be 4. Again, it will come back. Is C less than X? Yes. If C is less than X, then K will be incremented. And C will be incremented also. And X will be decremented again. So now you come back, but this time the loop condition is false because C is 3 and X is 3. 3 is not less than 3. So the answer for this code would be 3. All the code I'm using today will be available to you, and the code itself, you can test it and make changes to it. Back to the questions. Question number 2. Given the following Java program, this is a program, class name test, has a main method, main. It calls a function, call me. So let's see what happens. It calls a function, call me. Arguments are 2 and 3. So this one will be 2, and the other one will be 3 here. So let's see the print method. The print method says x plus y. This is simple string format, integer format, new line. So now you have 4 choices. Is the program going to print 2 plus 3 equals 5? Or x plus y equals 5? Or x plus y equals 2? So the program will not print 2 plus 3 here because you are outputting a text here. Here, the value of x plus y is 2 plus 3, which is equal to 5. So the answer is B. There will be no error. We have this code available already. You can see it if you go to MCQ2, multiple choice question 2. If you run it, this is your output. Back to the slides here. Multiple choice 3. Simple question. Which of the following is not a valid Java identifier? Identifier means either a variable name or even a function name or a method name. So C is not a valid identifier simply because it starts with a digit. You can start with an underscore. You can start with anything. You can add a digit, but not in the beginning. You cannot start with a digit. This is very common in many programming languages. Next question. What will be displayed after this code is executed? xy equals 3, z is equal to 2. So we can analyze this code here. X is 3, y is 3, and z is also 2. Now we need to see the value of x now. So x is equal minus y. So y will be decremented first. Y will be decremented first because this is a prefix decrement. So y here will be 2 multiplied by z. Z will be incremented. However, is it going to be incremented now or after the statement? This is a postfix increment. So z is 2 currently, and it will remain 2. In the next statement, z will be 3. So 2 times 2 will be equal to 4. However, still in the next line, you are outputting minus x. So x is currently 4. However, when you print minus x, the value of x will be decremented before it's accessed. The value of x will be decremented before its access. So the output is 3. You have this code here at MCQ, this one here, and the output, as you see, is 3. Next question. What will be output after the following statements executed? This is an array list. Array list of string. The name of the array list is list. Initially, the array list is initialized and it's empty. It's empty, as you see here. Then we are adding or removing strings. So let us track this and see what happens. First, you are adding phone. Phone will be added to the beginning since no more values are there. So on the first time after this statement, the list will only contain phone. Then you are adding PC. However, PC is added now at location 0. So BC will be added before phone in the list here. In the third line, list.sit. Sit means replace. Replace means whatever you find in index 1 or in location 1, then you can remove it here. So now this one instead of BC will be tablet. It will be replaced. So the answer is BC and tablet. Does that make sense? Next. What is the output of the following expression? It's a simple one. Go ahead, look at it and try to answer the question. You have a string and a double. Look at the format. Look at the format and see. Is it going to be A or B or C or none of them? Let us test them one by one. Is it A? No, it's not A. Why? Because here, CMBS, CMBS is lowercase. However, in the output, you see %S, caps lock. So code is going to be output all caps. So it's either this or this. Now, which one is it, B or C? Let's look at the average. This is the original value of the average. However, before we output it, we format it to have only 2 decimals. So this one is not the answer. This one has 2 decimals. The only 2 formats here done in the output is uppercase code and 2 decimals for AVG. So the answer is C. Question 7. This is a loop. Typical loop question can be in any programming language. The answer would be the same in all of them. It's not a specific Java question. What will be displayed? You have a for loop, starts at 4, stops at 10. Look here, 10 is included. Then you have increment by 1. If k modulus 2 is equal 1, then continue. Continue means go back to the next iteration. Otherwise, increment x. So you need to know how many times x is incremented. So in case 4, the condition will be false and x will be incremented. So x will be 1. This is x. When k is 4, x is incremented. X will be 1. When k is 5, X will not be incremented because it will be skipped. In case 6, 8, and 10. So now you know 7 and 9, X will not be incremented when K is 7 and 5 and 9. So when it is 4 and 6 and 8 and 10, so X will be incremented 4 times. So when you output X at the end here, it will output 4. We can see the same code here. MCQ question 7. Run this one. The output is 4. Next question. What will be displayed after the following statement? Look at the code, take a minute and suggest, without choices, suggest what would be the output. This is a coding question. It needs some thinking. Go ahead, try to give me the output and I'll see which one got it right, without any choices. $1.5, 4.5, 3, 1.5. Let us analyze it. First of all, I have 2 methods called add. And it's not a simple case. One of them returns an integer and the other returns double. The first one takes 2 integers. The second one takes 2 doubles. I create a new object here and then call the adder 1.5 and 3. So which add method is going to be called? Is it the first one or the second one? It's not going to be the first one because 1.5 cannot be an integer. However, the second one would work here. So the second one would take 1.5 as the first argument, and 3 can be easily promoted to a floating point data type. 3 can be easily, without any errors or data loss, 3 can be promoted to be equal to 3. No data loss. But you cannot use the first one. To go from narrower to wider, no problem. But from wider, like float or double to integer, there's going to be some data loss. So why second one is going to be used? Because you guarantee that no data loss here. 1.5 will be given to X, 3.0 will be given to 5. The first one will not be called. Even if it's the only one, it will not be called because you cannot send a floating point argument to instead of a integer parameter. So now the output will be 1.5, which is the input, the second method. It will return only X. There will be an error if it's only the first one, because let's see the code here. It is adder. Let us run the same code here. 1.5. Second one is called. Let me remove the first method so I answer some of those questions. Let me remove the second method, not the first one, and see what happens here. We get an error. From integer to float, no problem. From integer to double, no problem. But if you go narrower, you will get there will be some data loss, and this must be explicitly done by the programmer. So we will get the original code back, tested before we go back. It's working fine. Multiple choice number 9. What will be displayed after the following code executed? This is a class. It has one attribute, items. It has one constructor, which is a parameterized constructor. In the code here, we are creating two objects, A and B. So now let us take a few minutes or a minute to see what is the expected output from this code. You will be creating two objects. One of them is A, the other is B. Items. So now this is your object A. Object A has only one thing, which is items. And the value of items for A is 10. Next, you are creating a second object. You are creating a second object, which is B. And the value of items in B is 30. If you do this, the answer is easy. So now, in this line here, A dot items plus equal B items. A dot items is equal to 10 plus B items, which is 30. So this is going to make the value of A dot items equals 40. The output is to print A dot items only. So the output should be 40. We can test the same code here. Run. We get 40 as you see here. So these are typical multiple choice questions. Next type of question, there is one more. What is the output of this? This is an array. And we need to decide the output. And when we work with arrays, you need to be careful about the indexes. Here is our array. Here is our array. Look at the values and see what do you think the output is going to be. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's the array length? The array length is 6. Let us look at the output statement. nums1 plus nums4. What is nums1? Nums1 is 2. Tamam. And nums4 is 5. You know the indexes of this array? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When the array size is 6, the indexes from 0 to 5. So the first value here, the output will be 7. Plus, this is a string in the middle, plus nums, which is the array name, nums.length. What is nums.length? The length of nums is 6 minus 2. So the expression here inside is going to be nums4. Nums4. What is nums4? What is the value stored in nums4? It's 5. So you just need to know the indexes, starts from 0, how to know the array length, and how to get the C outputs like this. So the output is 7 and 5. Hopefully we have this code ready. I believe it's here. We can output this and we get 7 and 5. I give you the code, guys, so that after the class you can make changes to the code and see the output. And this is one of self-learning techniques, that you make changes to the code and you see what is the output and try to understand why we get that output. Next, output questions. You will be given a code and you need to write the output. Write down the output, not to select one of multiple choices. What will be displayed after the following statements have been executed? We have a class called customer. If you see the names 01, 001, I just did this to organize them in one folder and you get them in the same order of this demo. So we have a class called customer. It has a name and balance. String is a name, and balance is an integer. The class has two constructors, as you see here. One of them is default constructor that takes no parameters, and the other is one parameter constructor. It takes only names. So let's look at the code. We first create a C1 object using the default constructor. This is C1. Now I need you to tell me for C1 what will be name and what will be balance. For C1, after this statement, name is a string, so name will be null. Balance will be 0 because it's an integer. This is for C1. Let's see C2. C2, name will be Sam. And that's it. I'm not setting the balance for C2, right? This is 0. But now I come back to C1 and set the balance to 100. So C1 balance now will be changed to 100. So if you know how to draw this block diagram, then you can easily predict the output. If you look here, C1.name is Sam and balance is 0. However, C1.name is null and balance is 100. Here is C1. C2 name is Sam and the balance for Sam is 0, integer value. So let's go to the code and see this. You will find them in output here. 0, 1 output, for example, for the previous code here. Same code. If I run it, so null, no name for C1. Balance is 100. For Sam, we set the name, but we did not set a value for the balance. Next question. What will be displayed after the following statements have been executed? Let's look at this code. The code last name is course. And it has one static string. And here you need to stop if it's a static string. The second one, which is integer y is equal to 10. So there is only one static string here. And the other attribute is a non-static. So there will be one code for all objects you create. One code variable. However, each object you instantiate will have its own value for y. So now let's see the code now. You create first object, and then you create second object here. My object and your object. Sorry, guys, for this. Here, my object and your object. Right. So my object first, this is my object. And here, you object. So now both of them, y will be 0. Y is 0 for both of them. Of course, I'm not going to tell you what is code, because code belongs to the class, not to the object. The class, which is course, has the code, which is currently ABC. This is a class variable, A, B, C. They both will use it because it's a static thing. There is only one copy. Now, object in this line will try to change the code. Can my object, change the value of the code string? Yes. It's not final. It's not final. It will change. However, if it's changed, it is not change for the object itself. It is changed at the class level. It is changed at the class level. So now it will be new. So the value of code will be new. And in the next line, my object will change its value to 20. In the next line, your object will change again the value of the static string class variable. It will make it what now? It will make it old. And it will change its y value to 40. So now what's the output? If you know how to draw this diagram, so you know what's the output. The code is a static class variable, so it's old for both of them. However, for the first one, y is 20. For the second one, y is 40. So the output will be old 20 and old 40. We can run this code here. Let's see. Here is the same code. We can run this, and it is old now. If you can change it. It's not a final attribute. However, there is only one that belongs to the class. They call it class variable, while they call y an instance variable. Each object you create has its own y. Next question. What's the output of this? We have a function call. And I want to bring to your attention this function use what we call multiple variable length function. Variable length function. So if you have covered this in the class, that's fine. If you have not, then your professor will not bring it in your exam. But let us see whether you have covered it or not. So what happens with variable length calls here? You call it 3 times. First time, you call it with the data array. Second time, you send 2 values. Third time, you send 3 values. Can you tell me what the output is now? This function will sum all the values in the list of the parameter list. So how it would work? You have an array of 10 integers like this. It's a new array. Integer data, new integer size, 10. The size is 10 in the previous line. However, you call the function in the next line here to find the total. The data array will go here, all of them. However, what are the contents of the data array now? It has 10 values, but all are what? All are what? Are 0. Because you didn't, okay. So this loop will go from 0 to 9, like any array. And it will remain adding zeros, 0 after 0, 0 after 0, and it will return the sum. So total is expected to be 0. Now S, you call the same function again with 2 parameters, and this is valid, guys, if you use variable length parameter list. And very useful, very, very useful. When you call it with 1 and 4, so the values will be 1 and 4. First value is 1, it will be added. Second value is 4, it will be added. So the output should be 5. Yani first output is 0, second output is 5. Then you call it with the 3 values. 1, 1, 1. They're gonna sum it. You will sum first one, 1 plus 1 plus 1. So the output is expected to be 3. If you have not covered this in the class, this is fine. If you covered it, now you know variable length argument list can take any number of arguments, whether an array or values separated by commas or any type of list. Let us test this in the code here. I think I don't have it. Maybe here. Function. Yeah, this is the code here. First time the array is all zeros. Second time is 1 and 4, and third time is 1 and 1. Let's see the output. 0, 5, 3, exactly like expected. This is usually taught at the end of chapter 6. This is usually taught at the end of chapter 6. Let us see this now. I'll give you 1 minute to look at the code and try to figure out the output. Go ahead. The main method is at the right side. You create 3 objects, but using three different constructors. And constructors are calling themselves. There is what we call here instructor overloading and instructor chaining. You need to study one object at a time. And each one has a print me method. The print me method prints the ID, name, and is qualified. So for the first one, what will be the values? 1, null, false. I approve this. For the first one, it will be 1, null, and false. What about the second one? It will be 10, Tom Hanks, and false. Does that make sense? For the third one, you provide all the values. Third one, which constructor will be used? Third one will use this constructor. So 20 and Steve Jobs and true. The constructor will call the previous one constructor chaining. Okay. And it will get the ID and it will set the name. The second constructor will check the first one. We did this before in an example. So the output for the first one will be 100. The name will be null and the is qualified will be false, default values. The second one, the ID will be 10. The name Tom Hanks and the is qualified will be false. The third one, Steve Jobs, is 20. Name is Steve Jobs and true. So you call one constructor, but you can apply what we call constructor chaining to avoid any duplication in the code. Let us see the output here. Chain me, maybe the class name is chain me here. This is the same thing here. I create 3 objects. Let me run this. 100, null, false. 10, Tom Hanks, false. 20, Steve Jobs, true. So even when you call the third constructor here, the ID and name will be set by the previous constructor. You will set only the additional parameter here in the list. Back to the code. So the output as I explained to you. Now we need to write some code, and it takes time to write some code. Like we need to, first one, we need to use a 2D array. Again, if you covered this in the class, you know, and hopefully, I believe all instructors communicated with you. If you've not covered this in the class, like myself, for example, it's not going to be part of the questions. So here we have a 2D array. The 2D array is called numbers. And it's given to you. What you need to find, we need to find the sum of all numbers in the 2D array. To work with the 2D array, you need loop. Not one loop, 2 loops. Outer loop to go from one array to another. Inner loop to go for all elements in the array. 2D array is an array of arrays. So here is the introductory code. We need to add to this, as you see here, 2D array. This is our code, exactly the same one. So we need 2 loops. We have 3 arrays, but each array has its own length. They don't have the same length. So let's say the outer loop will be for integer I is equal to 0. I is less than my numbers, which is the 2D array name, my numbers dot, my numbers, just a second, my numbers dot length. So my numbers dot length is the numbers of arrays in the 2D array. So the number of arrays in the 2D array is 3. So the outer loop will go from 0, 1, 2. The first array is this one, second array is this one. Now for each array, I need to sum all the values of it. But the arrays have different lengths. This is simple also. But first, let me initialize a total integer sum is equal to 0. Now, in the inner loop, this will be for integer k is equal to 0. Now, k should go from the first to the last element in each array. But those arrays have variable length. This is also easy. You could say my numbers I dot length. So my numbers I dot length, my number 0 is this array. My numbers 1 is this array. My numbers 2 is this array. So in the first round, it will go, thank you, it will go from first to last array. In the inner loop, in each array, it will go from first to last element, regardless of the number of elements in the array. So now in your loop, you can just now do whatever you want. Sum plus equal which value now? My numbers, which value? Array I, value k. Array I, value k. This k is caps. That's what I'm getting error. Good. So now let's see if let me see this here. Sorry. K is less than my numbers dot length. Good. Thank you, guys. I'm watching so many things while I'm teaching. That's why I miss those basic things. So now, my number 0, 0 is 1. My number 0, 1 is 2. My number 0, 2 is 3. My number 0, 3 is 4. Then you go to the second one. My numbers 1, 0 is 5, and so on. So after the end of this loop, now you can say sys out sum is equal to and plus sum. Hopefully this code works fine. Let's run this code and we get sum 70. This code is very, very, very generic. You need these 2 for loops when you work with any number of any type of 2D array. Let me show you now. I'm going to add one more array to it. I'm going to add one more array to it with different values. Like here. Okay, I'm going to change the size of some of the arrays. This code is very, very useful. Outer loop will go array name length, inner loop for each array length. Let us run this. Hopefully it works. Sum is 251. So these 2 loops are needed whenever you work with 2D arrays. Problem solved. Next one. Simple question if you understand it. Not simple if you don't. Look at the code here. The area fun tester makes use of 2 methods of a class called area fun. So we have a class called area fun that is missing. We cannot find it now. It's being used in an area fun test, which is this one. Type. To get the area and the perimeter of a circle. Good. But the area fun class, the code is missing. We want you to write the code. Based on what? Based on how the code is being used here. Based on how the code is being used here. For example, look at this. Double radius 3.5. Then you calculate the area by calling something like area fun circle area, takes the radius and returns the area. Then you can print the area. Then perimeter, you call the class, and carefully listen, I'm saying you call the class method with the radius, and that method returns the perimeter. So if there is something to conclude now, the methods in the area fun are both static. This is one thing. The methods both return double. No need to create an object of the area fun class if you want to use those methods. Exactly the same way you do with the math library when you call sqrt, by all these things. So now what you need to do, you need to go to the area fun and write the two methods that you have seen hopefully many times before, and you know the values even directly. Both methods take double, which is a radius. One returns the area, pi r square, and the other returns the perimeter, which is 2 pi r. So let's go to the code and see how we would do this thing. This is area fun test, and area fun I need just now to do this. So I create a class, no constructor needed at this one, because all the methods in this class are static. So the first thing to do is public. Good. Second thing, static. Third thing, double. Fourth thing is the method name. I can cheat the method name here, circle area. So now, and this method takes one thing, which is radius. That's it. And I can copy it to the second one here, and I will call it circle perimeter, I believe. If you are not sure, you can see here, circle perimeter. So I have the two methods, but both are static. Let us return the area. Return math.py times math.power. Sorry, math.power. Is it power? Okay, math.power, which is radius, comma 2. So this way now you are returning the area. Second one is also simple, which is going to be return 2 times math.py times radius. That's it, 2 pi r. We are done. We have two static methods here. Both take one attribute or one parameter, and both return double. So now if I see this, if I go and see this, according to the question, they tell you the methods you are doing should be used like this. If you look at the methods are used at the class level. Yani, like exactly you use the math library, power, and all these things without creating an object from the math library. Those are static methods. You don't have to create an object or instantiate an object from the class to use them. So this way, the method can be called from the class name like any other static parameter or a method. Let me run this first, and I get the output. However, if you want to do the same thing for objects, you don't have to make the method static. But the question was specific that they want you to see this, and they want you to conclude that the question was asking for a static methods. Static methods, no need to create an object. From the class name, anyone, anywhere can use them. Anyone, anywhere can use them directly. Usually, they are very, very, very good for things like utility methods and services at your project. So let's go back to the code here. So we know now it's static. They take one double. They return a double. From the name, we could conclude they take double and return a double. All the information you need should be available to you in case you need to do so. Third code, I will skip the third code and do code number 5 here. Square pyramid. This is easy, even though it looks long. It's very easy. It's a basic one. Square pyramid. This is the class name. It has 3 attributes. What are they? Base, slant, and height. All, of course, all are double. Let us read this. Set all of them to 1 in the default constructor. The attributes should only be visible in the class. So what do we understand here? We have 3 attributes or data members. All are double. In the default constructor, we set them all to 1. All should be private. One more thing, create another fully parameterized constructor that takes all the attributes as parameters. We need set and get for all of them. Usually in exams, you will not be asked about all these things for one question. But I added all these things just to solve a complete problem here. In lab exams, usually are asked about things like this. However, all of them should be positive. So you cannot take any negative value. So let us start from here. The class name is square pyramid, base, slant, and height. So I will go to the code here and create a new class, square pyramid, and this is our class. We have 3 private things, which are base, slant, and height. Private, all are double, base, and then we have slant and height. Done with all the attributes. Next is set and get for everyone, which is also with Eclipse is easy. I can go and do set, generate setters and getters here, select all, done. Next, I need 2 constructors as the question says. First constructor, default. What you do in the default constructor? You set all of them to 1. That's it. So I will go back here. I will say source, generate constructor using fields, and default. Default means no parameters in it. So this is my default constructor. So on this one, I would say set base 1, set height 1, and set slant 1. So in the default constructor, I set all the values of my attributes. Now the question says, provide a fully parameterized constructor that takes the 3 attributes. Good. Here I can now create another fully parameterized constructor. Source, generate constructor using fields. I will select all of them. However, let me say one important thing. If you are doing validation, I am not done with validation like here. Set base, set slant, and set height. I must make sure they are not negative values. So I would do this here. If base is greater than or equal to 0, only do this. And I would do the same thing for the slant here. If slant is greater than or equal to 0, only use the value slant. 3, if height is greater than or equal to 0. If height is greater than or equal to 0. So the set methods now will ignore any negative value. All the set methods now will ignore any negative value. So now, if you are using validation, you are not supposed to set the values like this. Because if someone sends you -1 for base, then the value will be given to the variable directly without verifying its validity. So what I recommend, whenever you have validation, use the method. Do not use the setting the value directly. So here is how you use the method. Call the method. Always call the method to be in the safe side. Always call the method to be in the safe side. Now we are close to finish this. So never allow negative values. I did. Provide two methods to calculate surface area and volume. So let us do volume. We need now to calculate. The volume and surface area are not data members, are calculated values. So third base square times height. So we'll create a method now. This method will return the volume. It will be public. It will return double, as you would expect. Get volume. This method takes nothing now because it's in the class. So let us cheat the method, the 1/3 base squared times height. Okay, so I would say double volume equals to 1.3. You know why I'm adding, sorry, 1.0 over 3 times math dot power this dot get base. So you get the value of base and by 2 times, hopefully I don't forget, base squared times height. So now we could say this dot get height or height. You are in the class, no problem, whatever you do. So now we can return the volume. Okay. Next one is going to be return or get what? Surface area. 2 times base times slant times base square. So this one would be here. Get surface area. I will copy some things here. Get surface area. And here we'll say S area equals 2 times this dot get slant, I believe, and get height. Hopefully this is right. If it's right or not, it's not a big deal for us here. Oh, plus base square. And so I can take this to the end now. Okay. Yes. I still feel I left something. Okay. It is 2 base slants plus base square. I believe it's right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Yeah, if you are in the same class without using this or using this, it makes no difference. Okay. We explained this long time ago. I personally have a nice video on this on YouTube. You can view it. It's a 15-minute video on that. S area. So now, okay. So now we calculate the volume, S area. Okay, calculated this. Let's see the next step here. Provide a utility method, get details. This get details, guys, it should be returning something like this. Yeah, and it will give you the pyramid, the base, the height, the slant, the surface area, and the volume. Best way to do this is to use string format. Let me go here and see if I can use a string format. So the method name is print details that returns a formatted string. So the method will return a string. So public string print details And this one would be like, okay, I would say string details, here string dot format. And you can do a lot of these things. And I'm trying to save time, guys. So I would go to any one of my older classes because I'm running short here. Let me see car here. I just want to copy some code quickly. Here, I'll copy this code quickly and square pyramid. Quickly doing this, okay? So now I can say string format here. I would say pyramid. Then I would say base. And base is what? Base should be what? Is all are what? Oral float, right? Okay, so base will be this. Then what here? Height, again float, and another tab. I need here slant, and this slant also is going to be same thing, float. And so the methods I will provide here, okay, I can go to the next line now, which is this dot get base, comma, this dot get height, comma, this dot get slant. Now I'm done with one part of it. The good thing when you use this, you could say report plus equal string dot format. Now you could say what? You could say volume. You are adding this to the volume and %2f. And here you say this dot get volume. And one more method is needed, which is the surface area. You just can copy paste this one and do this surface area. And this dot get surface area. One thing I missed, which is what? Which is a new line between them. So the best thing is to put the new line, for example, here. Here is a new line. And here is another new line. And here is the final new line. I believe we are done with all the class things. They just need us to create a tester. Tester is creating a class with a main method. So I will go here and say in the same package, I will say pyramid test with a main method. So I'm going to create two objects in it. Square pyramid sp1 equals sp1 equals new square pyramid. I will not use I will use the default constructor. If you use the default constructor, as you see, what's going to happen? All the values will be equal to 1. I'll create another one here, sp2, and equals new square pyramid. I'll provide my own values now for all of them. Of course, if you provide negative values, then you know what's going to happen. They will be ignored. That's it, by the way. I will say here, what's the error? The constructor double integer. What I did wrong here, Anna? New square pyramid. It's square pyramid here. Double. Did I provide? Okay, let me go back to the pyramid test. I see I'm doing something wrong. Yeah, okay. Yep. 3.5, comma, 7.9, comma, 6.9, comma. So now I created two square pyramid objects, one using the default constructor. The values will remain 1, but let us change only one of them. As square pyramid 1 set height. I'll set the height to 4.5. The other two values will remain 1. Let us output them. Sysout. I can call the sysout here directly and say For example, square pyramid 1, print details. Hopefully the print details is working fine. And do this for the second one, sorry. Do this for the second one, square pyramid 2, print details. Hopefully things work fine here. I guess they are. So this is still 1 and 1. This is the volume and area. This one used the ones we want and calculated all the things correctly. We still have 2 programs. Hopefully we finish quickly. For me, I have no problem. I'll continue doing all these things. I have 2 programs now. They are short, small functions in a program. Okay, so we will go to this one. Look at this code. We have an employee of class. Okay, we have an employee class. And let me just do one thing, guys. Yes. Let me do code 4, because code 4 is about arrays. Code 4 is about arrays. And all of you covered arrays for the class and for the exam, I believe. Here we have a class called student. Very simple class. ID, name, credit hours. And it only has one constructor. The question is not about the class. It's about here, the array of students. So in our class, in the main method, we create an array of students. 3 students only. Question 1, fill it with 3 students. Second one, create a function that to return the number of seniors. Who are the seniors? If they have credit hours more than or equal to 90. So let us do first 2 things here. I will go to student here. This is the class. Now, I need to create 3 students. This is very simple. I can say student. I showed you that you have everything here. Student S1, for example, is equal to new student. And we could say here, for example, ID 100. ID is 100, integer. Name is Ali Hassan. And finally, credit hours is me, 104. So this is our first student. I will make a second student, S2. His ID is 200. His name is and his number of credit hours is 55. I'll create 2. The third one I can create on the fly. So let me show you how to fill the array with 3 students, for example. The first student, I'll put it in the first location, the second in the second. So here you would say students, which is the array name. Student 0 equals S1. That's it. You put 1 student in the first index of the array. Students 1, which is the second location, is equal as 2. I will do the third one in a different way. I will say students 2 is equal to new student. When you put objects inside array, the name of the object doesn't matter. What matters with arrays of objects is the index of the array. So new student 300, his name is new guy around the block. Okay, and his number of credit hours is 55. So now I created 2 students objects separately. I placed them in the array. I still can create a student like this. When it comes to arrays of objects, name of the object doesn't matter. What matters is the index of the array. At any time, you can call the index like this. For example, students 0 dot. Sorry, students, the array name, 0 dot. Any function that's available in the student is available to you. So now I filled the array with 3 students. Now we have a function that needs to return the number of senior students. This is a function. Will tell us the number of senior students. Number of senior students for those who finished at least 90 credit hours. The function is going to return an integer. And since I'm calling it from the main method, I will make it static here. So the function will take an array of students. The array of students will contain a number of students. We don't know how many, which is fine because we can ask the array about its length. So the function would be public static integer get seniors, for example. Let us say what's the okay? Get seniors count. Tell me how many seniors in our students. And you will send the array of student here, students. So now the function takes the array of students and it should return to us how many seniors. So I could say integer count is equal to 0. Then you can go using a for loop or enhanced for loop. It's up to you. If it's enhanced for loop, you could say for student s in the array students. Okay. And here you would say if s dot get or s dot credit hours greater than or equal, sorry. Let me just use parentheses here. Credit hours greater than or equal to 90, then increment the count. That's it. So now you go from first to last student and increment the count. If the number of credit hours is greater than or equal to 90, return count. So this way you are returning the number of senior students. Let me just test this now. Let me output this integer s equals get seniors count. I'm calling the function to see, and I send the array to it. So I'm sending the array to the function. Let me output this here like this, seniors, for example, to make sure our code is working fine. Seniors plus s. Okay, let me run this code now. I have 1 seniors. Let me make it 0 now. I'll change the number of this guy to 65 only. Let me run it. Seniors equal to 0. Let me make all of them seniors and see if our code is working fine, and hopefully it is. Okay, this is the, we run this and hopefully seniors is equal to 1. Yeah, I make them, all of them seniors and run. So seniors, or the number of senior students, is 3. So we did the first one, we did the second one, we did the third one. But there is an important question here. It says add a class variable. Add a class variable. A class variable means something static that belongs to the class to count the number of active objects. Yani, they need some kind of a counter. Whenever you create a new student, we know that. So we have a counter, how many students were created. But this thing belongs to the class, not to the object itself. It's a static class variable. So how you do this? Whenever you create a new student, I need to increment some kind of a counter. Let's go back to the code here. I'll go to the class student. I will create something called here static. I will create a static first here. I would say, you know, public static student count, which is equal to 0. Remember, this is a static. Public static integer. Remember, this is a static. Static means there is only one. One for all objects. Whether you create 2 objects or 1 million objects, they all share the same reference, okay? The same value. That's khalas, that's it. We are done, by the way. If it's a static and it starts with 0, whenever someone creates the constructor, just increment it, and that's it. So I could say here student count plus plus. So whenever you call the constructor to create a student, you increment it. Of course, if you have multiple constructors, you need then to make sure you call one of the constructors at least, yani. Okay, not duplicate this if you are calling this. It's beyond the scope of this short. I only have 10 minutes remaining. So now let's see now. After we create the first student, I'll print this value. Look at this. After we create the first student, one more thing, it's a static thing. I can call it from the class name dot student count. Bueno, here. Show. I'll say count. So we see the output. Count plus student count. After we create one object, I will call this. After we create the second object, I will call it. After we create the third object also, I will call it. Let us run this. So now we get 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? So even if you create 1 million students, this is one value. It's a static class value. It will be incremented every time. This is not the ID, not the name. These are instance variables, but this one is a class. All objects refer to it. One final question. Sorry, I cannot stop, yani. One final question here, and very good question, is about array lists. If array lists are not part of your exam, I don't know actually. We have many sections. Myself, it is, and I believe most of them. It's yani, something you took with your professor. So I will go back to the code here. I'll go to question number 3. It's a long question. Don't expect this number of things, but we are providing everything possible. Okay, we have a class called employee. Very, very, very simple. Look at it. Employee, you have integer, employee ID, name, and salary. Then the constructor is straightforward, no validation. The question is not about the employee here. The question is about the array list of employees we are going to create. So this is an array list of objects. The object is employees. In this code, at this moment, we provide an empty array list for you. Array list of what? Of employee. What is the name of the array list? Emps. Then we need to implement some of those methods. The question here is not an exam setup, because I wanted everything to be in one slide, actually. So in exam setup, usually they do more details given to you. So let us see and do this one by one. Where is the employee here? This is the employee. Here is the employee. So ID, name, salary. One constructor. Now we have an array list of employees. Let us see this. First, I need to provide a method. I need to provide a method to add employee to the list of our employees. This method is useful if you have the employee and you want to add him. Right. This method expects you to send a ready employee. Yani you can send a ready employee to this method. Let me create an employee. Employee E1 equals one constructor, new employee. His ID is 100. His name is Steve Jobs. And his salary, Allah yarhamu nikrimu shway, okay? This is his salary. So I have this guy. He is created like this. I want to add him of an array list of employees. I created the method, by the way. I can call this method to add E1 to my list. Tamam. So I will call the method add employee E1. So this is fine. But what to do inside the method? Add employee where? To the emps list. add this guy to my list of employees. Very simple, just one line now. Imps, and I could do it outside, but sometimes you need to do it separately. Imps.add. What you are expected to add to the imps? You can only add employees because it's an array list of employee. So imps.add, that's it. I will add E, that's it. So you have now Steve Jobs added to the employee list. You can create another employee here and add him also. Okay, E2, 200, Bill Gates, and the salary is this much. And I can add now E2. So whenever you call this method, more employee objects are added to your array list of employees. Let us see the last one. Print all employees. This should be very simple, by the way. It's a simple for loop. Could be enhanced for loop or a for loop. I will do this to see the results. For what? Employee E in the emps list. That's it. I will output, for example, something like this. Sysout E.id. Okay, plus I will put space because I don't have a print method ready. Then E.name, then space, then E.salary. That's it. So this one is going to print all the employees, ID, space, name, salary. So now I can call it. Let us see Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Print all employees. And the array name, array list, emps. Hopefully the name is right. Print all employees. I will change the name here. So now we added 2 employees to the array list. Print all public static void. Yeah. I look at the chat whenever I get stuck. You can if you have, but it's this. I get a question. Can we just add toString? toString is still not covered for all courses, all sections. One more thing, toString, it needs to have the toString method implemented, and toString is not implemented to the employee in this example. Our question is only limited to the array list. I know we can do better employee object, but here the question is about array list. Hopefully I answered your question, Laham. Tamam. So what was the error here? Print all employees. Let us see if things work now here. Yeah, I believe it's working fine. Here is Bill, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates data are available. So next question, next one. We are done with this one. Next, get a new employee. This I'm not going to do now. How you do with this? Yani you input the data. No time for this. I must finish within 5 minutes. You could say employee, and you use just system scanner. Employee, for example, E is equal to new employee. Yani first you get the name. You need to put some kind of a scanner and read the input from the user. You get that? You read the input from the user, and then once you read the ID from the user, like for example, integer ID is equal, you're gonna read it from the user, but now I'm just gonna do this. String name is equal to, okay, okay, and salary, double salary. These are local variables now, and this is the local salary. That's it. Now we have the name and you can create a new employee. You could say employee for in a real question, you will be entering these things from the keyboard. Employee E is equal to new employee, and you have ID, name, and salary. So this is a new employee. You are expected to read this from the keyboard and create the object and return E. So this function now will return an employee. You just put a scanner and get the next integer or next double or next line and get the 3 values first, then create an object from all the 3 values. Next one, get employee. Oh, you need to get an employee based on his ID. Let us make this 300. You need to search the list and try to return one employee. You see what I'm saying? One employee. You need to provide his ID. You need to search the list, in other words. You need to search the list. This function will return one employee. Of course, if the employee doesn't exist, then it's going to search null. So let's make a long story short. You would say employee E equals null. Then you use a loop. That's it. For employee E in the emps list, if statement, very simple. For employee E in the emps list, if E dot ID is equal ID. If it's equal to that, then this is the guy we are looking for. Then let me just change this. Emp search emp. This is the guy we are looking for, huh? Okay. Then you would say here search emp is equal to E. So this is the guy we are looking for. Let me see what's error here. I look at the chat whenever I get stuck here. Okay. I think it's a kind of for employee. Cannot be resolved at a type. It seems like employee. I'm typing it. Doing something wrong and no one is helping. Okay, I see this. Employee X. I believe a simple thing is the error here. Okay. Finally, I just need to return. I don't think there is an error. Return search employee. So this is the employee you're searching for. So employee, the letter F is capital. Oh, shukran. Thank you very much. The letter F is caps. Yeah. Okay. So now we will return the employee if it's there. Of course, if it's not there, it will return null. You know that. You will not go inside the loop. Let us search this, for example. Let us search this. For example, I can go to the end here. Search employee, get employee. The method name is. So I will search for an employee by ID. Yani. Okay. Let us say emp employee s equals get employee from the employee list with the ID 200. This guy should be Bill Gates, right? Let me output the name and see. S dot name. It should be Bill Gates, right? Okay, so the name is Bill Gates. Let us make it 300. 300 is our mark. I am done. 3 minutes. You can leave if you are. Okay. This is wrong. 300. 30, nothing wrong. Okay. 300. So now this is how to get a new employee. 300 is should work, by the way. Did we give this ID to... Oh, not given, actually. Still, Zuckerberg is not in the list because I did not add him to the list. Okay? I did not call that method, okay? So I'll just add a third employee from my side here. 300. أحسن بلاش زوكربيرج يكون معنا. Okay. 300. His name is no name. Okay, and his salary is 8,000. And I will run this. Okay, Bill Gates, and his salary is, I did not add him. I need to add him now. I add employee 2 and 3 to the list, array list. Okay, we have 3 employees, and the no-name guy is search. Let us look for 100, who is Steve Jobs, and it works with search. Similarly, I explained search, I explained get. Remove is as simple as all of them. Remove is if you send the ID and you remove it from the list. I can do this quickly, but remove will use the normal for loop with it. Here you need to delete this employee from the list. It's much simpler than the add. You would say for integer I is equal to 0, I is less than employee list dot size I plus plus. So what you're gonna do here, if the ID matches, if imps dot get I dot ID is equal to ID. If it is, then imps dot remove. Imps dot remove I. That's it. So now, if you find his ID, remove him from the list. If you find his ID, remove him on the list. You can return true or false. I'll make this void. I am not going to return him. Okay? No need to return true or false. So this way, it will search the list. It will be removed if it's not in the list. Let me call this remove employee method and hopefully add employee. I will print all employees. Then I will remove employee emps dash 300. I will remove 300 from the list. And then I will print all employees. I will comment this. I don't need it now. Okay, so we will see if it was removed. See here, no name was in the list. And we called the function remove employee with his ID. He was removed. And that's it. I am going to stop recording now.